and we'll get started. So welcome to today's webinar, How to Overcome the Most Common Issues in Marketo Engage. And this webinar today is using our new brand. Actually, we've been refreshing some of our brands, so you'll see this new look on the screen if you've joined one of our previous webinars. And again, any feedback welcome. If you find anything hard to read or anything's difficult to see, then let us know. Happy to take that feedback from fellow marketers. So let's get underway. Today we're going to cover what is Marketo maturity? How do we measure it? How do we understand where we are in the scale of Adobe Marketo Engage maturity? We're going to look at some of the most common pitfalls that we've seen in Marketo instances as well, and we'll also take some Q&A at the very end. So hopefully we're packed with some insights for this webinar. I'm really looking forward to sharing them with you because it's a topic very close to my heart. My name is James Fletcher. I'm an Adobe Marketo Engage Certified Master here at JTF Marketing. As I say, any questions you've got, drop them into the Q&A. This session will be recorded, so feel free to drop out if you need to, and we'll make sure that we send it through to you so that you can watch again. So first, a little bit about JTF Marketing. We are marketing automation experts. We specialize in Marketo Engage and help organizations around the world really extract true value from Marketo as a platform. Our team is spread globally across 3 continents, so we're quite a big team spread across a big geography, and we're helping customers really get into the crux of automation, getting them to do more with the platform and really taking on those challenges that no one else likes. So it's one of our favorite topics, is really pushing the boundaries with the technology and making sure we can answer some of those. Can we? If we did, how could we? If you've got any of those, I'd love to hear from you. I love a challenge, so definitely pop that in the chat if you want any feedback or just to chew the fat and understand how could you approach one of your challenges in Marketo. From us, from a business perspective, we've been around for about 8 years. We specialize in Marketo Engage, as I mentioned before. We've won a range of awards for our work with our customers. And really, it's all about getting the maximum out of Marketo Engage. So there's no better place to come to talk about Marketo Engage than our team. We are a very broad range of experience of multiple marketing automation platforms, and importantly, certified to the hilt in Marketo Engage itself. We're working at the moment to become a specialized Marketo Engage partner, which is really exciting. So we're a couple of certified experts away from that. And again, we'll see another accreditation on this board for our successes. Some of the customers we work with range from technology companies through to manufacturers, through to even banks and financial organizations, education organizations, a real broad range. And everything is focused on how do we scale Marketo? How do we get it to work? How do we get the best out of the platform that we possibly can? Again, you'd expect from the work that I've already mentioned, we work, as I say, across multiple sectors, as well as many, many different use cases. So really be interested to hear if there's any challenges you guys specifically have with Marketo that you'd like to cover off as well. Be happy to take some of those questions. So let's get into it. What do we know about Marketo Engage? Other than being brilliantly certified in the platform, we spend a lot of time digging into Marketo Engage as a platform and really understand how different organizations are using it. So over the last 12 months, we've conducted 96 different audits of different organizations and their use of Marketo, looking at things like license fee versus usage, data hygiene, email performance, and how are we using the platform? How many assets are we building? Are we really getting value for money? And this all started from a conversation, what is now 7 years ago, with one of our customers saying, hey, James, do we really get value from Marketo? How do we measure it even? How do we understand what it actually gives us? And I think this is always a really interesting challenge, right? Because when we look at a CRM platform, we don't question its value because it's core to our business. Marketo Engage is very similar in that context, that we use it as a tool every day as marketers. We're building our campaigns, we're tracking engagement. So actually the value is quite hard to measure. What we've got to measure it by is efficiency of our marketing team and of course the results that those campaigns bring. So don't blame the tool, blame the people using the tool, right? But ultimately this does open up a way of viewing Marketo as a return on investment. When we look at how people are currently using Marketo Engage, we can see that overall, across those 96 instances of Marketo Engage, on average, marketers have purchased 55% of its capabilities. So that's often the base packages within Marketo Engage, so events, webinars, email sends, lead scoring, automation. Sometimes we'll creep into the predictive content. Sometimes we'll creep into ABM. Again, there's a ton of other features available in Marketo that we don't actually even touch the surface on. And there may be a million reasons for that. You might have other tools that are a better place for your business, or you may have just never got round to building the maturity within Marketo in order to take on new capabilities, new features within the existing subscription. Now, of that 55%, 57% of that capability is being used. So ultimately, we're talking 25, 30% of what's been purchased actually being used. Now, this is really important because when we look at the different instances, we actually start to see the maturity being quite broad, and actually a lot of people still doing the basics. And I'll jump into that in a bit more detail shortly. Now, we've then got a maturity score that we've calculated, and this is based on our own methodologies, the way that we look at Marketo as a platform and understand how effectively are these customers using Marketo Engage. And the average score across these instances is 31%. So it's still pretty low. So often when I listen to conversations with customers, with customer success managers from Adobe, who we partner very closely with to run this kind of analysis, we're actually looking at, okay, we've got this brilliant tool with all this power. How do we apply it in the right way? What is our strategy for maximizing our investment? And it's like anything, right? If you go and buy a 4x4 and you never take it off road, what's the point in buying a 4x4? Just because you have a dog? Doesn't make any sense. So again, if we've got this brilliant tool, let's use it to its maximum capability. That maturity score will allow us to measure the effectiveness of our marketing automation strategy and whether we're really using everything within the platform to build an always-on marketing model. Now, we talk about this Marketo maturity curve or the marketing maturity curve, however you want to coin it, and there's very different versions of this depending on who you go and look at. But if we strip back all the noise of the features and capabilities that are available in the platform and look at what are the core elements of each one of these different levels, we get level 1, which is your batch and blast campaigns. It's what we're doing day in, day out, point in time campaign, select an audience, send the message out, measure the effectiveness. And we'll see in the next slide how many of those instances that we were working with over the last 12 months have been in that place when we first audited them. The second level is ultimately around personalized and automated campaigns. So think trigger-based activity, think about hyper-personalization, using the data in our database in order to improve our campaigns and optimize them for results and engagement. We then get level 3, which is then starting to get into the scalable and the strategic element of actually, okay, we've got the baseline running from a marketing machine perspective. How do we now go and get the right people out of that list? So the lead scoring, the prioritization, the remarketing, the multi-channel campaigns, how do we get there? What does that mean? How do we tie everything together and measure it accurately? And then we get level 4, which is the holy grail for all of us marketers. It's an always-on life cycle-based model that we're constantly optimizing and tuning to boost conversion rates. And this is really, really important because a lot of people buy Marketo, start using it as is as an email marketing tool, replacing their incumbent email service provider, but actually never get to that holy grail or even parts of the holy grail, which is that always-on model. So we hear this quite often as consultants that actually Marketo, it's really hard, it's really difficult to get to that always-on model. It's actually not that difficult, but it's a mindset thing. We're just going to change the way we approach marketing. And of course, there's that two-way street. We've got to keep stuff going out the door, but we've got to build the future, right? We've got to have those two running in parallel if you are looking to make the switch. Or again, thinking about reworking existing content to fit an always-on lifecycle model. So back to those 96 instances that we audited in the last 12 months, you'll see here the different levels that they sit within. Now, an instance can score in multiple levels because you will achieve certain levels based on the capability that you're using. So as you can see here, a high level of level 1, 76%, 35% achieving part of level 2, and 19% achieving level 3 and 8% on level 4. So you can see that slopes off really, really quickly. Now, what are the gotchas here? This is the important part. We often get stuck in executing, but we don't have an overarching strategy that ties, okay, we are acquiring data into our database, we're processing it, we're nurturing it, we're enriching it, and then we're driving campaigns through personalization in order to get the results, the MQLs, the sales attributed revenue. That's the second part that's missing. And it's often the hardest part because a lot of marketers are pressured into thinking you need to have the answer, but you've been able, or you've learned how to use Marketo purely by building campaigns. So why don't you know the answer? Why can't you get that to work in the same way? So there's an education and training piece, which is really, really important when it comes back to building that level of maturity, understanding how to apply this technology to your business to best meet your needs. Now, when we look at the most unused features, this is often quite a sad story for me because I look at it and find some of my favorite features of Marketo in the lowest used list. And it's often through miseducation, right? So number one here on our list, we've got Lifecycle Modeler. Lifecycle Modeler is your customer journey in live terms within Marketo Engage. And you can actually see the conversion rates. You can actually understand what is working and what's not. You can start to see whether your always on marketing model is starting to work, or whether you are building a database, or whether you're converting it. It's really, really critical. If you've ever worked in a software as a service business and you work by conversion rates and funnels, and you're always looking at how many MQLs have I generated, how many are moving to the next stage, et cetera, this will be second nature to you. You're probably already doing it in a spreadsheet. Marketo can do it live. So you can save yourself a lot of time. For those of you who aren't necessarily so revenue focused, again, this is a really good way of starting to look at your data set in different segments and really understand, how am I targeting the new people in my database? How do I process them to get them to an MQL? Is it enriching them using third-party software, or someone contacting them, or filling in the gaps? And which records are missing data points which I need in order to progress them through the funnel? Or I've got this giant pot of MQLs that aren't being followed up on. How do I prompt conversations? Which technologies can I apply in order to accelerate those conversions as well? So there's a load of stuff in there, a load of value that you can get. You can also start to see if sales aren't responding to your MQLs or SALs or SQLs, whatever terminology you're using. It's absolutely critical in you telling the story of, we're generating leads and sales, you're not following up on them. Therefore, what's the fix? How do we fix it together? You can build that sales and marketing alignment by talking about conversion rates and revenue. I'll park it. As you can probably tell, I'm very passionate about Lifecycle Modeler. Predictive content is the next one on the list. This is actually now a feature available in most of your Marketo packages because it's been added as a free capability within the license fee. If you've renewed recently, you'll have seen it on your license fee. If you've not renewed yet, you can also ask from your customer success manager that it's added into your package. Predictive content basically allows you to serve up personalized content based on either performance of the content itself or personalization based on the individual. This is really, really important when you're trying to keep that conversation going and serve a ICP the ideal content for them to convert. Now, it's free. You can use up to 25 pieces of content. We've run a couple of webinars on it, and we've got an upcoming training session there on the left-hand side if you would be interested in finding a little bit more about how do we do that. Now, the big thing here is you will drive email engagement by using predictive content. So it's definitely worthwhile a look at. The third thing on my list, and this pains me to say, but Marketo's capabilities for social are dreadful. There is not really any capabilities that you would want to use on a day in, day out basis, but there are third-party tools, the likes of Octopost, which is one of our partners, that you can use to integrate social activity into Marketo. Now, why would you do that? Personalization, lead scoring, lead quality, attribution to social activity. It's really, really important that we actually track it in the right way and understand that these leads may be unsubscribed, they may be unengaged, but actually on social, they're super engaged. So let's not get rid of them, track them in a different way, engage them in a different way, and guide our sales team in order to engage with those individuals through social channels. Email deliverability is the next one. So that's one of those features that is included as an extra add-on. A lot of people have purchased it, but 8.7% using it where it's been purchased. It's a great capability. Again, if you're worrying about email performance stats, if you're looking at whether your deliverability is an issue, it's a really good tool to get into your practice. So if you're A/B testing, if you're looking at whether your domain has been abused over the past years, maybe you've inherited marketing in your organization and it was blast, 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 blast without any thinking, you may find that your email deliverability score is quite low. So you can track it within Marketo centrally and monitor it for updates. So it's really, really important there as well. Ad targeting, another free feature. I can't believe I just said that again. Another free feature that's underutilized in Marketo Engage. So this is the ability to build smart lists within Marketo and serve them as audiences to your multiple channels. So whether it's Google ads, whether it's Facebook ads or Meta ads, whatever they're called these days, again, you want to serve those audiences up for two reasons. One, you already know who the people are you're going after. Second, you might want to remarket to them in order to get them to engage at different points of time. And the third one is you can exclude your existing customers from clicking on your Google ads, which will save you on average 25% of your budget. So isn't that great? And it's free. It's very simple to set up. A couple of clicks and you're there. Again, we've got another course coming up available in the next couple of weeks where you can learn how to set that up and how to program it in Marketo and feed it back in. Now, the final item of the unused, abandoned features that have been purchased is Marketo Sales Insight. Now, this is probably one of the most complex features of Marketo because it's Marketo Sales Insights and actions, because there's now actions available through the module in your CRM. Now, the most common reason we hear that this isn't deployed is because we haven't got around to it. It's just not been important. But actually, sales and marketing alignment relies on this capability. So having the visibility against a record of which emails are getting sent, what they've engaged with, what the interesting moments are, what the lead score is, how it's been made up, etc., all sits within Sales Insights. Now, you pay per seat. So normally you will start with about 5 seats as the minimum license. Some of you may have it already included. I definitely recommend getting it installed, playing around with it with a couple of friendly customers in the sales team, and really getting it to understand how it can work. And you can roll it out over time. Again, the big gotcha here is training not only from a marketing perspective, but also from a sales user perspective. So let's talk email performance. Now, I have to confess, I hate talking about email performance because I think it's not a great metric and marketers are used to talking about it as a vanity metric. But in this scenario, I will give in. We've analyzed 1.2 billion emails sent over the last 12 months. And these are the key stats from across those different metrics. Now, you'll see that actually these are kind of interesting rates when we start to look at benchmarks. I don't know how many of you are doing benchmarking against your email performance, but actually what everything points to is this massive issue with deliverability. So we get 89% deliverability. Now, why is that? There's a couple of things that play into this. One is always whatever the salesperson enters not being validated as an email address in CRM. The poor salespeople, we're always bashing them. Second one is your prospects and customers entering invalid email addresses into forms that are Marketo forms or third-party forms. And then we've obviously got list uploads as well. Again, we've got options to improve the way that this works from an input perspective, email validation, scripts that check the email addresses right, etc., etc., etc. But what we should be doing is excluding them from our campaign sends, right? We should be monitoring them, keeping our database clean, and constantly evaluating its success. Now, one other thing that does impact deliverability, of course, we start to talk about email deliverability as a whole, sender domain reputation, etc., etc. We might also want to consider the code quality of our email templates. So if you're using any of the templates that are from the Marketo library and you've customized them, I can guarantee you will be getting your emails into spam every single day because we've tested the code and we know that it happens. You can actually use modular master templates to build your emails more effectively. And importantly, they will be ready for those different ISPs. There are certain criteria that work in order to boost deliverability. and we've got them built into some standard templates that we have if you're interested in any email templates. If you get any issues with it, I definitely recommend testing your email template through something like Email Acid or Litmus and just checking if there's any code issues. They do make a difference. Any URLs that aren't your branded URL will also cause you issues. And yes, text and language does make a difference as well. So again, think about other ways of presenting that information, especially if you're in an industry where you're under regulation. Again, there's something here where we can also look at data quality, because data quality is really important, right? So that's something worth considering. How good is your quality of database? How old are the records? Are they unengaged? Are they not engaged, et cetera, et cetera? Now, a question I often get asked is, should we be doing more webinars or should we be doing more whatever? Now, this is really interesting in Marketo Engage, because actually the way we look at programs in Marketo is we've obviously got our email send programs, we've obviously got default programs, which kind of the catch all, and we can heavily customize them using channels and tags for reporting purposes and measurement purposes. And I'll come to that a bit later on. We've then got these engagement programs that everybody kind of fiddles with, but it never quite works. And how do we get it to work? What's different, what's not? Again, there's loads of stuff there that we need to dig into. But you can see here the split of programs, a lot of email sends, a lot of default, and some engagement programs creeping in there at the top as well. Now, when we look at conversions on forms and landing pages, there's two things that make a difference here. Known visitor type, which is knowing who your visitor is by using the Munchkin code to identify them and not asking them to fill out a form, is a massive improvement to boosting your conversion rate. And the second thing is pre-filling any forms where you might have 3 sections that you want to pre-fill: first name, last name, email address, and then maybe phone number or product of interest, et cetera, you'd leave as then options to fill in. Again, these are all about making it easier for people to engage with your forms. I read a study the other day is that 67% of people who engage with forms don't fill them out because they know that they're a form. What I can tell you from our own experience is when we deployed known visitor forms, which is basically changing the form to be a button that says, "Hey, James, welcome back. Click here to download or click here to register." And you may have seen that on our website. It's improved our conversion rate through the roof. So definitely worth having a look at that. There is a requirement to have a script in order to read that cookie ID and use the forms correctly. So again, if you need any help on that, we've got something off the shelf that we can put in place pretty quickly. When we start talking about smart campaigns, these are the logic in Marketo, of course. What are we doing? When are we doing it? How are we doing it? What are we sending? This is really interesting. So the stat that came from the customer success managers at Adobe said that 25% was the golden line of trigger-based activity across all instances of Marketo. Now you'll see here, we've got peaks and troughs of the smart campaigns from 2011 to 2023, and these are all-time records. You can see the number kind of goes up and down, and it's almost around 30%. Now, when we talk about boosting our levels of maturity, trigger-based activity is really, really important for personalization, for engagement, for driving success. So I definitely recommend having a look at how many trigger-based activities you've got versus how many batch. Now, when we look at batch campaigns, these are obviously kind of interesting in Marketo because they can run multiple times. So the second graph down the bottom is showing us how many of those smart campaigns that we've audited have been run, have never been run, or actually recurring. And the recurring section in there, you'll see it's a little brown line, which is really hidden. There's not that many. So it's definitely worth having a look at it. And as we probably all know, or if you're new to Marketo, every 6 months, any non-triggered trigger campaign in Marketo will be deactivated by default, which might mean some of the logic you think is working actually isn't working because it's not even enabled. So it's definitely worth having a look at that within your instance as well. Now, out of all our audits, we've generated 2,000 recommendations, of which 443 were classed as urgent. And to give you the top line, urgent, here we are. We've got native CRM connector issues, so sync issues, permission issues, missing objects, missing data, the most common thing in Marketo, the two systems talking together. Email and landing pages come up almost every single time we audit an instance, we have problems with them in terms of building emails, or we can't get it to work, or it doesn't scale, or the brand's not right, or this button doesn't sit right, or I've got to hack it in order to get it to work. Really, really easy to fix, actually. Automated data management and hygiene rules comes up all the time. Again, this is Marketo using its power and its intelligence to constantly maintain a clean database, whether it's deduplication, whether it's email performance, whether it's engagement metrics, however you want to look at your database and start cleansing it and keeping your license fee under control is absolutely critical. So if you've got any issues with data hygiene, again, you can identify either through one of these audits that we run or by looking at the instance yourself. Again, reporting, program analysis, understanding what works, what doesn't. Channels and tags here is probably one of the most critical elements of the measurement itself. So understanding what they are and how to apply them is really important. Lifecycle modeler, I think I've bored you all enough about, but again, getting those conversion rates through the funnel and really understanding whether your campaign targeted at MQLs has driven more conversations or not. And then we've got Marketo Sales Insights and Action. So again, how are we getting sales teams to engage with the intelligence that we've collected, and how do we arm them to have positive conversations with our prospects? Now, if you're interested in getting some personalized recommendations for you, we do run these audits for free. So definitely feel free to get in touch, and you've got a nice QR code scanned here. These audits don't take very long to turn around. Kind of 2 to 3 weeks, you will have a personalized report ready for you. It will give you an insight of where you are. You can then either work by yourself or with one of our consultants in order to boost your maturity level. And it's been really, really successful working with a range of organizations and helping them push forward from a baseline. Like, where are we? Where do we go from here, and what do we do next? I'm sorry I chatted for so long and there's not so much time for any more questions, but if you do have any questions, do feel free to get in touch. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions you've got, or even just talk about your instance specifically or any challenges that you've got. And I wish you a very good day.